That's I meant to purposely start the recording at this point. For undergarments, this is really simplified now to what it used to be. We have jerseys, so upper and shorts, that's kind of your uniform, and then everything else would be considered undergarments. And the easiest thing for you to do if you're a team out there or an individual that's going to ref and play is just identify a color that your team is going to wear for undergarments. So white, black, could be red, like it could be whatever, but everybody needs to be the same solid color. And so what I'm seeing in the games that I've ref so far is majority of teams have just picked black or white, and everybody then just gets the same. So identify that as a group. It'll make things way easier. If you want to go two different kinds, that's fine. But if everybody's wearing black and you come out in your white t-shirt, then usually the white t-shirt's going to have to be changed. Long sleeve shirts are not allowed, but long sleeve compression shirts are allowed. Okay, so that's just one thing to consider. And then regular t-shirts that kind of come down to the elbow are allowed. And then everything else is kind of compression based material. You can wear leggings, you can wear those knee pad leggings, elbow pad leggings. That's all good. Just make sure it's all one solid color. And then we can't have any bandanas or anything tied, anything that's coming out the back. I'm not going to read through all of this, but this is just things that come up. So I got a text on the weekend and somebody was wearing a knee brace and the official told him, hey, you can't wear a knee brace. And so just having an understanding of what we're kind of allowed and not allowed. So when we look at the not permitted, if you've got a cast or something metal and hard on your upper body, where kind of finger, hand, wrist, elbow, we can't have that. So that's not going to be permitted. Anything that would cut or cause abrasions would not be allowed. And then hair accessories and jewelry. So we don't allow jewelry in basketball at all. It's not like volleyball where you can tape it. So jewelry is removed. Some obvious differences between volleyball and basketball. There's a lot more contact and those opportunities for those accessories and jewelry to injure people or injure yourself. But then a few things you can see down there that you can have ankle braces, knee braces, some of those kind of things for safety or to help yourself out. So need to launch our first poll here. So we're going to launch poll number 1. And so you should see it come up on your screen. Give everybody like 30, 45 seconds to answer the question. It should auto answer it for you. And so the first one, this question here of our 4 throughout is A1 ends their dribble. A1 places the ball between their legs and fakes a shot. Do you think this is legal? And so you should be able to answer that. I'm hoping. Yeah, we're seeing a bunch of people. And so, like I said, it shows me a timer here. I'll give everybody like 30 to 45 seconds. If you're a group in a classroom, it's okay if you don't answer it on the screen, just yell it out. And once it's done, I'll end the poll and we'll know the answer to that. So this was a question that was on the national exam this year. And we'll see how the group does. Do about 10 more seconds. Again, if you're not able to answer on the screen, that's all good. And we're going to end that. And so, no, you're not allowed to do that. That would be considered illegal. And the reason for this is kind of like we're talking our football, kicking ball, those kind of things with our legs. So not allowed. But if you're just playing intramurals at lunch, definitely allowed. There's our results if you want to see, and the correct answer is no. So that one's a little out of place, but I didn't want to have a bunch of polls back to back. The score sheet, just have a sample here from a few years ago at Hoopla, and it's legible, so it's kind of nice to be able to see. So coaches, if we've got some coaches in the room, you want to make sure you fill in your players' roster with numbers. You can create labels that will line up with the standard score sheet if you want, or just write them in. And then make sure that your coaches' names are on there, okay? And so you can see kind of at the top, we've filled in what the event is, the dates, the teams. And then we're going to have team A is the top, team B is the bottom. And within that, we also see kind of where our timeouts are. And so the top two boxes below the timeout there are the first half. You get we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but 2 timeouts in the first half. And then the next boxes are the second half. You get 3 timeouts in the second half. And then all those little empty boxes below in Wilkie are the overtime periods. So you'd get 1 in each. And then big thing here is just we need the score sheet match what's going to be on the score clock. So when people score baskets, you can see that we're filling in on column A that number 14 scored a 2-point basket, and they progress throughout the quarter. It is recommended that we alternate our ink. So some schools and some teams will use blue in the first and third, red in the second and fourth. And then that kind of helps us if we had any kind of discrepancies in our scoring, we could identify that this was the first quarter and here's maybe where the error came in. And then the big thing when we're doing fouls is, we could check off our team fouls in the top, but we actually want to make sure that the period number goes in as the foul. So officially they would say put P1, but I know that there's not a ton of space there. So if we look at Cornerstone there, that Ashley had 5 fouls, and it's very clear that there was 2 fouls in the first quarter, 2 in the second, and 1 in the third. But the big thing with the quarter being listed is that we would then be able to identify when we hit bonus. Okay. And then lastly, again, we're going to talk about these specific fouls later on, but if you had a technical or an unsportsmanlike, you could put a U or a T next to the name. So that would help us identify if a person had a technical foul or an unsportsmanlike foul. And then we got the score going in at the bottom per quarter. And so I won't spend much more time here, but when we put in the period scores, it's the actual score that occurred that quarter. It's not the cumulative score. So you can see they've broken it down by quarters, but sometimes those doing the sheet will just put whatever scores on the score clock at the end of the quarter, but we want it quarter by quarter. All right, warm up. So a little bit's changed here with the warm up in the last few years, and the change took me a while as a ref to get used to. And so what happens is we used to warm up opposite our bench, but now what we're going to do is we're going to have the home team occupy the bench to the left of the scorer's table, facing the playing court. So if I stand at the scoring table and I face the court and I look left, that's where the home team should be. However, no big deal if you and your GM love being on the other bench. You can communicate that with the other team. They won't care. They'll jump on that bench and put their gear down and they'll go shoot hoops and get warmed up. Generally, we have about 15 minutes of warm-up time. But obviously, if you're coming in and you're the first game of the day, you might have 20. If you're in a tournament, you might have 6. If things are falling behind or if that's what the specific rules allow. So sometimes we need to be warming up a little bit in the hallways and in our weather in December, maybe even outside. When we're reffing, or if any of you work the scorer's table, we need a horn at 3 minutes, 1:30, and then 30 seconds. Okay, so that's kind of letting the teams know that warm up is ending. And then us as refs, we always want to talk to the minor officials at the scorer's table and just help them out with that. And once we get to that 30-second point, we're going to stop the clock, put 10 minutes on the clock, and be ready to roll. So an SHSA game is what we see on the screen here. And we're going to have 4 10-minute quarters. Now, some of you're going to go to tournaments this year, and there'll be 4 8-minute quarters, 4 9-minute quarters. Those are just adjustments to get through the day and not have teams getting home at midnight. But an official game, if you're going to any kind of SHSA playoffs or those kind of things, we're going to have 4 10s. And time is going to stop when the whistle sounds. Otherwise, time is going to run. And so our breaks, we're going to have 2 minutes between the first and second quarter. We're going to have 10 minutes at half. and then 2 minutes between the third and fourth quarter. And so the next part is a big one here, is the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter. So if a basket is scored in the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter, we're going to stop the time. And nobody's going to whistle or anything. You're just watching. You see it's the last 2 minutes, goes in, we hit stop. Once the ball comes in, referee chops in time, we're going to start it again. Was reffing last night, and we were stopping time all the time. And so we got that fixed up. But if somebody scores a basket in the first, second, or third quarter in the last two, the clock just keeps running just like any other basket. And then overtime. A lot of times regular season, we don't really do overtime. Some tournaments would do regular overtime, or they might have first to 7 points or whatever it might be. But if we're in an SHSA playoff game, we're going to follow this overtime procedure. It's going to be 2-minute break between each overtime period. 5-minute period, we're going to shoot on the same net as the second half, and our fouls are going to carry over. So if both teams were already in bonus, or what we call penalty, in the fourth quarter, then we're going to continue down that pathway with both teams being in bonus. There's no fresh starts. I just want to touch base. One more thing about the warm-up is we want to warm up in front of our bench, and then we start shooting at that basket for the first half. Okay. So a lot of information here, but I'll just kind of touch base on a live ball, dead ball, and a throw-in. So a live ball is when we've got the ball leaving the hands of the official on the jump ball. Game is now on. Free throw shooter has the ball, or we're about to throw the ball, and that's now a live ball. So we're not able to call timeouts or subs or anything like that at that point. A dead ball is when a basket is made, a whistle is blown, or the horn sounds. So what that means essentially is that in those dead ball opportunities, there would be an opportunity to take timeouts. So if my team gets scored on, we would be able to take a timeout at that point. If a whistle is blown by the official, there might be a foul. We could then do subs at that point, but we can't sub on the fly. There were some attempts to sub on the fly last night, and we want to go to the scores table for that. We'll talk about that shortly. And then the throw in, if you are officiating a game, we're going to bounce the ball to the person that's throwing it in. And we're not going to stand next to them and hand it off like we used to. We're going to bounce it to them. Defensive player, we need them to stay 1 meter away. Okay, so in certain gyms, there's not room for the person who throws it in to back up. So you as an official will sometimes need to say, hey, back up past the red line on the floor. And you would identify that right away. Lots of you here would know, hey, our gym's small, and yeah, we always have to back up 1 meter, and that's how we defend. And then officials never handle the ball after a basket unless there's a timeout or a substitute, something like that. So ball goes in, whoever's going to inbound is going to grab the ball, head out of bounds, and throw it into their player. And then once we've gained possession of that ball and we're out of bounds, we've got 5 seconds to throw the ball in. And then there's always a question of, can a person move when they're inbounding the ball? Or is that a travel? Is that a violation? What's going on? So when a basket is scored, the inbounder can move along the baseline. They can move freely, but again, you only have 5 seconds. So consider that, have an internal clock. And then when it's a throw in on the baseline or sideline for an out of bounds or a whistle, we don't have a lot of movement. So we're allowed to move backwards to give ourselves space to inbound it. And then no, you're not allowed to run side to side. You're allowed to have a little bit of within 1 meter lateral movement, and then that's it. So that kind of answers those ones that always come up. The jump ball or alternating possession, we see it lots. Okay, so the jump ball is going to occur at the start of the game. 2 people in the middle, jump up, try and get the ball. We need the jumper to stand with both feet nearest to their baskets. And then the big one that probably a lot of people in this room don't know is the jumper can't win it to themselves. So it needs to be won to someone else. There's a few real technical rules about ball bouncing and both people touching the ball, but essentially the jumper can't win it to themselves. So if you're 6'10", like the kid last night, jumps up, wins it, it has to go to someone. They can't just jump up and grab it out of the air and call that a jump ball. A held ball, or what a lot of times you'll see is jump ball, is when two opponents are fighting for the ball and they both have a firm grip on it. And so we whistle it dead and say jump ball or alternating possession. So that now we would go alternating who had the first possession. So if we did the opening jump, team black is the first team to have the ball. They go score. We play for 5 minutes and we have a jump ball or a held ball. Team white is going to be the next ones to get the ball. And that's how that works coming out of each quarter and when those jump ball situations happen. So I know sometimes people get confused. They're like, oh, it seems like they always get the ball. And it's not the case. It's always alternating between the two teams. So there are people that use tricks and cheats for that. Some people will put an elastic on their wrist and they'll alternate it between their wrists. And when they look at the bench, they'll know which bench that's going to be. I know people that keep like a poker chip or a quarter in their pocket and they alternate that between each pocket and they know which team is which in each pocket. I also know people that wear a ring and they alternate that ring. So, or people just memorize and they know. And so those are little tricks that you can use. Timeouts. I'm going to try and move. So a timeout signal is just, we're going to stop the clock, hand goes in the air, and single finger, we're going to point to the team that got the timeout. As we talked about a little bit earlier, is 2 timeouts in the first half, 3 in the second half, and then 1 in each overtime. However, if you haven't used any of your timeouts and we enter the last 2 minutes in the fourth quarter, a team's going to lose one of them. So if you don't use it, you lose it. You go from 3 down to 2. And so some teams just don't take a lot of timeouts, and that's their choice. So timeout is 60 seconds in length. Coaches out there, the horn's going to go at 50, and that means let's start doing our cheer and not drawing up another play at that point. At that point, we want our 2 refs to head over to the benches and say, all right, teams, it's so-and-so's ball, and we're inbounding it here. Here we go. Do your cheer. Let's go. Timeouts are not meant to be a minute and a half, 2 minutes. However, you could take a second timeout at that point if you feel like, hey, the team hasn't really understood what I was trying to teach them here. I'd like to take my second timeout if you have one, and that is okay. In order to get a timeout, we can't call it from the floor like you see in the NBA. We do that through the scorer's table. So somebody, head coach or assistant coach, can go over to the scorer's table and request a timeout. Once requested, the next whistle or basket scored against that team is going to activate that timeout. Coaches, we've got lots of different levels of officiating out there. And the biggest thing is our minor officials change. So if you request a timeout and all of a sudden there's no horn after a basket or the ball goes out of bounds, it's also okay to just look at the ref and say, we need a timeout. We requested one and didn't get a horn. So just work together. That's the best way. In the final 2 minutes, this is kind of where some strategy kicks in. And so if we're in the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter, a basket gets scored on us and we're down by 2 points. And there's 20 seconds left on the clock. I decide to take a timeout. So we've got a couple options. We're going to whistle the timeout, signal it. And then what's going to happen next is 50 seconds is going to run off the clock. The horn's going to go. And then at this point, the referee is going to walk over to that coach and say, Coach, would you like the ball in the front court or the back court? And if we take it in the front court, there's going to be 14 seconds on the shot clock. If we take it in the back court, there's going to be 24 seconds on the shot clock. Once the coach decides, that decision is final. So it's not kind of like back court, front court, whatever. So once they decide and say, we're going to take it in the front court, thank you, get the ball, take it to the front court. They can't then go, no, I meant back court. I didn't know the clock. So just little strategy to be aware of. Our substitutions. So we're going to do those through the scorer's table. Okay. We're not going to sub on the fly, even if you're injured. If there's an injury, go down. If you're able to get out of kind of the key and the danger area, go down there. Sometimes people are bleeding and they kind of proceed to the bench. I mean, as refs, we want to understand what's going on. And if somebody's bleeding, we try and whistle that down. But our regular substitutions, 1 for 1, 2 for 2, player's going to go to the bench and say sub, next opportunity. And then they just take a knee. You just wait at the scorer's table. So if we get a whistle, easy time for subs. Ball goes out of bounds, tweet, we look over at the table, we hear a horn, and we're going to call people in. So subs, and then beckon them in. Other opportunities where subs could be made are after a successful last free throw. Lots of confusion happens where person goes to sub, a free throw is taken, but they have one more, and then they think they can come in at that point. So we need a successful final free throw. Or if you're at the scorer's table prior to that free throw, to any free throws, because there was a whistle, we can bring you in. And then another opportunity for subs is in the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter. And a team scores a basket against my team. And for this case, I'm team blue. We got scored on and we wanted subs. It's now a dead ball. And we can bring in those substitutions. If there's a timeout, substitutes are supposed to be requested from the officials. So we would just, same process. We got a timeout coming and we got subs. Yep, we're all good there. Quick check, nothing in there right now. Great. Okay, so before we go on, it's a good chance for me to get a water, check the clock, and I'm going to launch poll number 2. So we got about a 45-second Jeff Not talk, and we'll launch poll number. So A1 ends their dribble and is closely guarded by B1. Does A1 have 5 seconds to shoot or pass? Good luck. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. We'll share the results. The correct answer is yes. So what that situation is talking about is our closely guarded player. And so when we've got different violations out there, we often think of violations like travel and double dribble and those kind of things. But a violation is something that's not going to cause like a personal foul. It's just a turnover, whatever it might be. So closely guarded player is when we have picked up the ball and we now don't have a dribble and somebody's in their face trying to stop a pass from happening. And so at that point, we now have 5 seconds to move the ball. Lots of teams will try and trap a team coming up the floor when they're pressing, dribble into the trap. We pick up the ball. They are trying to stop passes from happening, but also a lot of times, trying to tick down 5 seconds, hoping for that turnover. Another one that I'm not going to have a slide on, so we kind of got 3 things here that don't have slides, is a football or a kickball. Essentially what we want to think about with a football or kickball is, was it done on purpose? So if I'm standing there, both feet on the ground, defensive position, and you bounce a pass right off my foot and I don't even move my foot, that's not a kickball or a football. There's no intention. It just bounced off a foot. If we're dribbling up the court, sometimes we might even dribble it off our own foot and it rolls out of bounds or rolls wherever. That's not a football or kickball. So think about intent and so some of those advantages gained. And it doesn't always have to necessarily be just your foot. So if I kick out a leg to stop a pass, that would also be a violation. Okay. So yeah, there was a big one in the NBA the other night. LeBron tried to pass, he'd hit Devin Booker's foot, and everybody was kind of two avenues of thought. Lakers fans thought it was a kickball. Suns fans said, no way, you passed it right at his foot. I don't know. So it happens really fast. So look for intent. And then as a player, don't get so worked up like, oh, my, that's a kickball. What do we? Don't waste a technical foul on something that requires some judgment. And then the other one is just ball out of bounds. So when the ball goes out of bounds, we want to inbound it where it went out. Aside from directly under the basket, we would move to the side, just the side of the key. And now we're going to get into a few of the more regular violations that we see. So the first one is dribbling. So dribble starts when a player bounces on the court. Okay, so we catch a ball. Once I dribble that on the ground, our dribble has started. You can't put your hand underneath the ball to carry. Obviously, there are times where we're dribbling and there's slight delays. But really, it's when I see someone carry, it's like in their hand, and they almost take like a step and a half, and that's when you know, okay, we've got a pretty clear carry there, or a double dribble. You can't dribble with two hands, and we also can't dribble and let it come to rest in our two hands and then dribble again. So that would be a double dribble. But essentially, once the ball hits the ground, I now need to continue to bounce the ball, dribble the ball until I pick it up to pass, pick it up to go for a layup, pick it up for a shot. But if I then pick it up and put it back down, we're looking at a double dribble. Okay. 3 seconds in the key. So don't always think exactly 1, 2, 3. See, lots of coaches out there will just 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Like, a player's got an opportunity to go in, establish a post position, pass doesn't come in. Okay, now I'm going to clear out. And a lot of times you'll hear an official work with those players and say, clear out or get out or whatever it might be, because they haven't touched the ball. They haven't done anything. They're just trying to go into the key and then exit the key. So don't always think exactly 1, 2, 3. Have a little bit of understanding of what's going on the court. When a player attempts to leave, you can clearly see they went in there and they're almost at that 3 seconds, but they've now turned to head out. We don't need to call a 3 seconds in the key there, because they are not involved in the play at that point and they're trying to leave. If they don't leave and all of a sudden a ball gets passed into them, now we're into our 4th and 5th second and they aren't actually leaving. That's where our 3 in the key is applied. And then the big thing is if you're kind of getting near the end of that 3 in the key in your head, your clock's going off, but the person is going up for a shot, well, then don't call the 3 in the key. Allow it to finish. It's either called or those sequences are happening. So again, always that dad in the crowd yelling 3 seconds. But there's a process that's actually happening within that key, allowing the person to get in, establish, no pass comes in, and clear out. And then the other thing is once a shot is attempted on net, that 3 seconds is going to restart. So if we've got shot, rebound, still in the key, another shot, rebound, those 3 seconds are resetting each time. So traveling, in my 12 years, traveling and calling and understanding traveling has gotten a whole lot harder. And maybe easier for players to use, but biggest thing with you as players and us as refs that we're looking for is we want to establish a pivot foot. So which foot is going to be the one that needs to be on the ground and not moving around? So that allows the person to move their other foot, they're pivoting, they're doing what they're doing. But if they switch their pivot feet, that's a travel. If they take 2 steps before putting the ball down and they've established a pivot foot, that's a travel. So to begin a dribble, we need the ball to hit the ground, and then we're lifting our pivot foot. It's not start running and then dribble, unless we're in real time or progressing up the floor. Then we haven't established a pivot foot. So that would be stationary. So when we're progressing up the floor, we could take 2 steps and come to a stop, pass, or shoot. And we kind of refer to that as control 1, 2. And then the other thing is we can't leave off our right foot and land on our right foot, or leave off our left, land on our left. That would be a travel. But biggest thing is player catches ball as a ref, look down, figure out which foot is established as that pivot foot, and then that'll help you trying to understand the traveling. Now, I would suggest that if some of you on this call today or on this webinar are doing some like elementary, younger level basketball, that you're gonna see a lot of travels, and there could be a whistle almost every play. And so it's trying to work with the players and really call the obvious travels, but it's everybody's just learning. And so when we haven't had a ton of practices and we don't really know, and now things are really fast, there's going to be some stuff that's probably slight travels that could be let go. And other times a kid might just start running with the ball and not dribbling at all. Whistle it down, travel, and then just communicate with those kids and say, hey, buddy, just make sure you dribble the ball next time, or whatever it might be. So this is one that people don't necessarily understand. It's kind of changed over the years, is that you can be on the ground with a ball. So if you dive for a ball on the court, you're down, you've grabbed that loose ball, you've got it, that's fine. We can't roll over with it. That would be a travel. But we can be on the court with that ball. There's a few ways. The other, like, you might be on your glutes with the ball. So you're sitting on the ground. Somehow you ended up on the ground. You've got the ball. What can I do? I can't spin a 360 and pass it off, but I can pass it around. And then the other time is some people can actually like dribble their way out of it. So we're on the ground. We're in a position where I'm able to just begin dribbling and then proceed up the court. So those are all allowed. And then our signal for traveling, as many of you have probably seen, is just circle in front of us. We would stop the play with an open hand, stop, and then travel. 2 rotations, 1.5 rotation. We need to get the ball over half in 8 seconds. And so what we want to do is we don't do a visible count anymore. It doesn't exist. We want to use our shot clocks. And once that shot clock shows 1-5, if the player is not completely over half, then we've got an 8-second violation. And so the 8-second is when we're coming in the backcourt to the front court. So ball is scored on our net. We need our shot clock operators to hold it until the ball is inbounded. Once we have the ball inbounded, somebody is dribbling their way up the court. They can go slow. That's all good. You just got to get it over half, 3 points of contact in 8 seconds. And then the other one is, you say you're running up the court and you've got some pressure on you. You can straddle the center line if you're still in the backcourt. Your 8-second count is going to continue. But you can actually have 1 foot on one side of the center and 1 foot on the other and be dribbling. And then once you've got both feet in the front plus the ball, we now can't go back and over. So we've seen many back and over and backs in our days, and lots of times it's a missed pass that goes into the backcourt. The other team can be the first to that ball, pick it up and be gone. That's okay. But if you touch it in the backcourt, now we're going to whistle violation, open hand, over and back, and we're going to have the ball in the front court. So if my team blue, had the ball go over and back, and I'm playing team white, It's going to be white ball in the front court, and they can only pass it inbounds to the front court. And we're going to have 14 seconds on the shot clock. So a turnover where we get it in the front court is going to be 14 seconds. So a few of our violations, we're going to have a shot clock violation. So 24 seconds is on the clock. It's ticking, tick, 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 tick. And so that's going to get reset. I always say when I'm talking to minor officials or officials, we're watching rims and possession. So a change of possession on real time or in dynamic play, 24 seconds. If it hits the rim and somebody gets a rebound, 24 seconds. Okay, so the other thing is the shot clock can expire as long as a person has let the ball go for a shot, and we let the play out. If I have not let the ball go and the horn sounds, then we're going to whistle it. So I've shot the ball, the horn sounds, and I make a 3-pointer, which probably wouldn't happen. We're going to count it. And if I airball it and my team catches the airball, whistle sounds, and we're going to tweet violation, shot clock violation. One of the more awkward ball signals in the game. And then quickly touch on the 14 seconds is anything that occurs in the front court foul wise. So we got a turnover in the front court and my team now gets the ball in the front. We're getting 14 seconds out of bounds. If there's a foul with 3 seconds left on the shot clock, we're going to reset that to 14 if we're in the front court. And then any fouls that occur in the back court are going to be 24 seconds. So I'm going to launch our third of 4 polls. Have a sip of water and good luck. So poll question number 3. Dribbler A1 ends their dribble. They then deliberately throw the ball on B1's leg, catch the ball, and dribble again. Is this a legal play? Okay, pretty even here. I'm going to end it in 2 seconds. If you didn't get a chance to answer, that's fine. You know the answer in your head. So the correct answer is no. So all you've done is essentially created a double dribble situation. Probably a lot of people are thinking like, hey, I'm inbounding the ball from the baseline. I could inbound it off someone's leg and then it would be a live ball. But in this case, we can't allow that kind of advantage to be gained because people would run up the court, pick up the ball quickly, bounce it off someone's leg, pick it up again, start dribbling again, bounce it off someone else's leg. And so once you've began your dribble and stopped your dribble, we need a pass to our teammates, turnover, something along those lines. Good work. Okay, basket interference, and I put this one on here because I know that we've got teams out there, and then I know we have players that are going to ref and play, and there's always a lot of confusion with basket interference and what it looks like and how that works. So basket interference in our FIBA rules is when somebody stops a ball from going into the basket in a way of interfering with the basket, punching from the bottom, whatever it might be. And then a lot of times people don't understand how that's applied. So I jump up and I slap the backboard as hard as I can, and it vibrates the backboard, and then that person misses the layup. That would be considered basket interference. It's not a technical, it's not a personal foul. The referee is going to stop play. We used to score the hoop. We don't anymore. We stir our chili for some reason. Not sure who came up with that one, but that's basket interference. Somebody jumps up, slaps the backboard while the player is doing a layup, and the layup goes in. The team just grabs the ball, they go out of bounds, and they pass it in. I'm not trying to promote backboard slapping. I just know that it does happen, and I think it's important for people to understand the process. So we were trying to determine as officials, did that interfere with the ball going in the net? So if a player goes for a layup and somehow they hit the metal above the net and somebody slapped the backboard at the same time, did that interfere with the ball going in the net? No, that player somehow did a layup and hit the metal, the apparatus. The other thing is, a player that maybe reaches through the basket and touches the ball, or jumps through the basket and tries to punch it out. Those are basket interference. And so then we want to score the basket and play on with an inbounds. So the other one is, some of you are going to go out there, you're going to get a whistle and be convinced to referee some elementary basketball, some junior basketball. It even happens at the senior level. Somebody scores on their own net. And so what happens is chaos ensues. People are confused. The wrong team tries to inbound the ball. Nobody knows what's going on. The scorer's table don't know who to give the points to. You'll probably get confused. It's chaos. So if somebody scores on their own net, I recommend, this isn't really in the rules, but I recommend stopping the play, look at the scores and say, give 2 points to team A. And this is who's going to inbound the ball. Because otherwise, I've seen it in elementary and young, they'll just switch directions and everybody's going in the wrong direction. It's just chaos. So I hope it doesn't happen to any of this season, especially if you score in your own hoop, but it totally does. We're going to finish off with fouls, and I think we're right on time here with about 10 minutes. A foul is a personal foul or an unsportsmanlike technical foul. Something's going to stop the play and is not allowed. A violation is a turnover, a ball out of bounds, a travel, whatever. So fouls are going to be counted towards yourself or sometimes the bench. So it's illegal personal contact, and you can accumulate 5 personal fouls, okay? So when a foul happens, we have a closed fist, arm in the air, and a whistle. A foul stops the play, okay? There's also things called double fouls, where maybe 2 players kind of going at it. We can have a double foul. So players shall not hold, block, push, charge, trip, impede, do any of those kind of things. And it happens. So they're not supposed to do it, but it happens. And that's why in basketball you get 5 fouls. On the 5th foul, the player would be considered fouled out of the game, and they're going to be substituted off of the floor. This isn't a kicked out of the game suspension or anything like that for just personal fouls. You're just out of the game. You can go sit on the bench still. When you're ejected from a game, you need to leave the game. So that's a little bit different with personal foul. We've got a bit of a cylinder. And so when we think about defense, we're in our cylinder. That's allowed, okay? So the principle of verticality allows you to be able to jump within your cylinder, okay? And maybe that's not going to apply towards a foul. And then defenders, yes, so can leave the court vertically to occupy their cylinder. So when coaches are like, get your hands up in the air, you can jump vertically. But what happens a lot of times that say, my hands were in the air. Well, your hands were in the air until you karate chop through the person's head, and then you put your hands back in the air. So just be aware. Good defense, our hands are in the air. We're all good. I slap down, get somebody in the head, and then put my hands back up. We're still talking about a foul. Free throws. And so we've got our space that we need to occupy within. So I'll just kind of put a picture there because it's really easy to see. And then I'll talk about just a couple things. We're going to alternate in our rebound places. If there's a rectangle key, use the rectangle key and not the trapezoid. And so when we have violations, one thing to consider is what happens. So if the shooter steps over the line, tweet, violation, no basket, and we would then either shoot the next one or it would be the other team's ball, depending on if it was first, second, or third. And And then it's if defenders, if they step in too soon, but the ball goes in, then we just carry on. So last night we had a situation. There was a clear violation by one of the defenders. Player got worked up. That's a violation. And I kind of said to him, hey, we got to let the sequence finish. So I'm not going to stop a shooter from shooting. But if that shooter shoots and misses, I'm going to go tweet, violation, blue, shoot again. So don't get worked up. That's why I say don't waste a tee on something that's a process that you don't understand. But if I violate as a defender, you make your basket, we carry on. There's not a reshot because you don't want to lose your basket, reshoot and miss. You just accept your points and off we go. So that's why we let that process unfold. We got some of our common fouls here. You can see the signals. We got holding, okay, pushing, illegal contact to the hand, okay, illegal use of our hands, or hand checking. And so it says launch poll number 4, but I'm going to keep going, and if we have time near the end, we'll take a look at that. Block an illegal screen. So your job as players and your job to identify as officials is, have we set the screen? I ref lacrosse. We don't often set screens. It's kind of like always moving, but in basketball, we need to set the screen. So I'm going in there. I'm not elbows out. I'm not standing like this, trying to take up space. I'm setting a legal screen. If I come to set a screen and I'm running and I don't set it in time and I create contact with the defender, it's going to be an illegal screen. Okay. So we've got foul, illegal screen, and then we're going to point offensive. Okay. And sometimes you're able to have a little bit of movement because it doesn't create an advantage or disadvantage, but we need the players to get in there and set a legal screen. Offensive charge. So the block charge, talk about quickly, is it a charge can happen. That's when an offensive player goes through an established defender who is in defensive position within their cylinder, whatever else. If the defender's moving into the lane and contact occurs, we're going to have a block. Okay. So charge is forwards, block is at our hips. And a lot of times a block charge can be a 50-50 call. So we want to, biggest thing I learned over the years, we want to anticipate the contact and get ourselves in position on that defender to see, are they set? Are they in defensive position? Are they in the lane? Offensive players, did they create the contact? Did they go through and throw an elbow to throw that defender off? Those are things we're looking for, okay? So sometimes the defender might not be in perfect position, but that offensive player drops the shoulder and plows through them or throws the arm out, forearm shiver to clear them out. And we can have a charge call on that. But looking at the feet, get them set, defensive position in the lane. Hardest calls in the game. So technical foul, I don't want to spend a ton of time on this because I don't want to encourage people to use this behavior, but when behavior occurs, we sometimes need to use technicals to calm it down or deal with the situation. So a tech, okay? Somebody swears on the court, this is beep and beep, technical foul. We're going to shoot one shot and go back to where the ball was going to be, okay? So if the ball was out of bounds and it's going to be blue ball and red decides they need to swear at top of their lungs for some reason, we're going to shoot that free throw, one free throw, and back to where the ball was going to be. So whistle the play, report, shoot the tech, the one shot, and return to the previous situation on the court. So back in the day, we used to shoot a tech and it was possession, but that's not the case anymore. So we just apply it, shoot it, no lineup, back to where we were. And so things like that, if we got some teams out there, we don't want to be swearing. We don't want to be disrespecting the officials. You can ask questions, learn. We all want to learn together. But certain things will qualify for a technical foul. One thing to think about technicals too is typically like a non-contact foul. So it's more of like a behavioral based and so something words wise or gestures, not our what we're going to talk about next is an unsportsmanlike, whereas more of our action-based foul, our contact foul. So last night I got a kid blasting in on a layup attempt, and guy goes up. Defenders, sometimes we just you gotta let it happen, or consider the safety of yourself and the other person. Ends up wiping this person right in the crash mat. And so we go unsportsmanlike foul. We're shooting 2 shots and possession. Okay. So unsportsmanlike fouls, we're looking for hard contact. In the last 2 minutes, if we're trying to foul, we need to make an attempt to play the ball. Okay. So we used to just grab a guy's shoulder or girl's shoulder and say, I'm fouling. I'm purposely fouling. It was actually easier for everybody, but now we need an attempt to play the ball. And then an unsportsmanlike foul, there could be an opportunity where we are shooting 3 is on a 3-point attempt. If the player hadn't landed yet, then it could be 3 shots and possession. If players receive 1 technical and 1 unsportsmanlike, they're ejected from the game. If they receive 2 unsportsmanlikes, they're ejected from the game, or 2 technicals ejected from the game. And then team fouls, bonus, or the penalty. So when a team reaches 5 fouls in a quarter, I think a lot of us have experienced this. So we've got 5 fouls, and everyone says, "Oh, we're in bonus." Next foul is going to be on the line, unless, of course, it's an offensive foul. Okay, so an offensive foul is not going to give the other team 2 shots. Technicals and unsportsmanlikes count towards the bonus situation. And that's kind of how that works. So we're in bonus. Boom, we've got a foul on team blue. We know that they're in bonus. The other team's going to shoot 2 shots. Everybody lines up. So we're kind of nearing the end here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the final poll up there. And if people need to take off because we're at the hour mark, that's awesome. I'll also stick around if anybody has any questions they want to put in the chat. I'll answer those. And as I launch this final poll, I do appreciate everybody taking an hour out of their day to come in and just learn a few things about basketball. Remember, this is a introductory course. We're just trying to learn a few things along the way. If you do have questions, you all received an email from me today. Feel free to email that jeff@shsa.ca or call in. Those that are here to do some officiate, I wish you all the best. It's fun, it's challenging, it's good exercise. And for a lot of you, it's a great way to stay involved in the game. When I graduated, how do I stay involved in basketball? I'm going to ref. So final question here is A1 is fouled by B1 while in the air during the act of shooting. A1 then passes the ball to A2. So it's a little wordy. So it's the 4th foul in the quarter. Shall they be awarded 2 free throws? And so we've got results are coming in fast here. And I'm going to end it so people can see. And so what it's saying is I jumped in the air, I got fouled on my way up, and then at the last second I passed it off to my teammate. So the foul occurred on me. And all right, 3 seconds. I'm gonna share the results. And so a lot of you are going to be mad at me because the correct answer is no, you're not going to shoot free throws because you passed it off. So you never actually did a shot attempt. So if you get fouled on your way up and you hear that whistle, you might as well try and finish that bucket. But once they pass it off, then we would just be, throw in on the baseline or sideline or wherever that might have occurred. So again, thanks everyone for attending. Like I said, I'll stick around and answer a few chat questions. And then this will be available on the SHSAA YouTube account, hopefully in the next little while. Have a great night. Okay. So boxing out of a rebound versus clearing people out of the key. So obviously boxing out is establishing position to try and gain possession of the ball. Clearing people out of the key may be offensive or defensive foul, depending on how aggressive it's happening. But it's a harder one to monitor. Students with diabetes. So a couple things there is that the coach could have the bracelet, or if it's a medical alert, we could put tape over top of that. But a lot of times, med alert bracelets are taken off after warm-ups, given directly to that head coach. And I know when I coached students with diabetes, we had a plan set in place with the parents and the athlete prior to the season. And so we would always sit down and have that plan in place. So something to consider as a group of what we're going to do. I always had kids that had insulin pumps, and so we always met. If someone intentionally hits the person with the ball's hand, is it a foul? I think this person is asking if you have the ball and we intentionally push someone with it, then yeah, it'd be an offensive foul. And good. So if you're still here, there is a full officiating guide. You can find more information at FIBA.com or Google FIBA rule book. The foul shots. People in the lanes in the foul shot situation on the final attempt, once it leaves the hand of the shooter, they can then enter the lane or enter the key to try and get rebounds or any of those kind of things. They just need to wait until it releases that shooter's hand.